Hello everybody, welcome back to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos, and today we're back with another video regarding the 2022 FIFA World Cup. Now, with every edition of every really major tournament, but the World Cup in particular, there are teams that can shock the world and go further than many people expect. Now, as you can tell by the title and the thumbnail of this video, we're going to be looking at three teams that are potentially dark horses heading into the tournament and could shock a few come the World Cup in Qatar. So without further ado, let's get into it. So let's kick things off with the potential obvious choice for a dark horse, and that is Denmark. Now, with Denmark's performances at the 2020 Euros, which we'll touch on a little bit later, it is a little bit disingenuous to call them a dark horse. However, they don't really have a lot of true stars in their team. They haven't really proven themselves, maybe barring the Euros last year. They haven't really proven themselves on the international stage as a force to be reckoned with. So they are a little bit of a, maybe not an unknown quantity, because we do know just how good they can be, and we do know just how good they can play, and that they can shock any team on any given day. But I think the dark horse title is potentially fitting for them. This tournament is potentially the last tournament where they can really truly be dark horses. Now, when we look at their qualification campaign, they were drawn in the qualification group in Europe with Scotland, Israel, Austria, the Faroe Islands, and Moldova. And as you'd expect, they made pretty light work of that group. From the 10 games they played, they won 9 and only lost 1. The one game that they did lose was against Scotland. They scored 30 goals and only conceded 3. That obviously means a plus 27 goal difference. And this was just pretty much what we were going to expect from Denmark in the qualification campaign. They were coming off a fantastic European Championship last season, and they just carried over that form into that qualification campaign. Now, when we look at the Euros Euro campaign, which they're just coming off, we saw a very, very dramatic kind of turn of events. Now, obviously, they fell in the first game to Russia in a pretty dark day for football. Of course, we all know what happened with Christian Eriksen in that game. However, they managed to rebound. They changed their system. They managed to get through that group, and then, of course, make it all the way to the semi-finals, where they were knocked out by England in that game. After extra time, it took a Harry Kane penalty to knock Denmark out in the semi-finals in extra time in that game. Now, like they did play at the Euros, they play at a high tempo, aggressive, attacking, assertive way of playing football, built on intrinsic ball movement that is direct and almost a little bit on the counter attack. Now, they deploy a little bit. They play a 3-4-2-1 style system. However, they can float between a 4-3-3 and this system, and it's very systematic in the way that they play, in terms of they don't really waver from any of the formation's key constructs. The double pivot in midfield normally stays very tight, very compact, which allows for obviously good passing triangles with the back three, and it also allows to negate any susceptibility that they might have on the counter attack. The back three sit in a very clear structure that offer multiple passing angles, like I said, as well as mix and match opposition. So that all the back three are very fluid. They can rotate across that back line and really just man mark players out of the game if necessary. Should Christian Eriksen, who obviously is coming back into form playing for Manchester United in a slightly deeper midfield role, however, should he occupy one of the narrow forward positions, I should say, he does have a tendency to act slightly centrally, which makes this a narrow forward. However, when it is someone like a Mikael Damsgaard or Skov Olsen or even the Yusuf Poulsen, they do like to push out wide and maintain that width. Up front, you're looking at someone like a Kasper Dolberg to lead the line, or Martin Braithwaite. Now, these two players obviously very well known on the international stage and both very proven goal scorers. However, with this front three, with the likes of Mikael Damsgaard, who's currently applying his trade at Brentford, and Andreas Skov Olsen, like Yusuf Poulsen, like I said, and Jonas Wind, who has had a fantastic run of things, especially for Denmark in the qualification campaign. This very fluid front three, which they can create to almost play a 3-4-3, a 3-4-1-2, or even a 3-4-2-1. This very fluid and kind of interchangeable front line will be a nightmare for defences to handle, no doubt. Now, with the system which I did mention before, it's almost a 4-3-3 slash a 4-2-3-1, I should say. My apologies there. But with the players available, it's now their secondary system at the moment, with the likes of Pierre-Emile Højbjerg being that rock-solid defensive midfielder in that 3-at-the-back system. He can transition across to that 4-at-the-back system, 4-2-3-1, and be brilliant there. By the time the Euros comes around, or by the time the World Cup comes around, I should say, they could float back to this system. They obviously do have this in their repertoire, which makes them an even more dangerous opponent. However, you should expect them to line up in that 3-4-2-1 system. The width that they maintain with the fullbacks, with Joachim Mæhle, who had a fantastic European Championship campaign last time out, the width that those wingbacks can create complements the likes of Mikael Damsgaard and Christian Eriksen playing as those narrow forwards, and it just creates an overload in attacking areas that can hit teams on the counter attack. They can dominate possession, and we saw saw in the UEFA Nations League campaign as well, just earlier this year, they can take it to some of the best countries in the world. They beat France in that Nations League campaign, so they won't be intimidated by anyone. They won't be afraid of anyone, and they can really cause a few shocks heading into this World Cup. Potentially, why the term dark horse may be a little bit disingenuous, but however, with key players like Pierre-Emil Højbjerg, Christian Eriksen, and Andreas Christensen and Joachim Andersen as those two main defenders in that back line, Denmark can shock the world. And if they go far in this tournament, it would not shock me in the slightest. They are very capable at beating any team on any given day. And if they top the group, it wouldn't surprise me. And if they can go one step further than what they did last summer, it could be a tournament to remember for Denmark heading into Qatar. So let's move on to the second team that we'll be covering in this video, and that it comes from Group G. And despite the potential favourites for the dark horses in this group being Switzerland, if that's a term, we're actually going to go with Serbia. Now, Serbia, for a side and for a national team that has never failed to produce top quality talent playing all across Europe, they haven't been able to translate that into international performances. They've been a side that has perennially underperformed at every single major tournament, and this time around, they need to change that. They need to buck that trend and really show just how good they are. Now, when you look at their road to qualification, they were drawn in a group with Portugal, Republic of Ireland, Luxembourg and Azerbaijan, and while many people expected them to come second, potentially even third in that group, they shocked the world and actually qualified automatically ahead of Portugal. From those 8 games they played, they won 6, drew 2 and lost none. They scored 18 goals and only conceded 9, with a +9 goal difference and 20 points, and that crucial win in the last game of qualifying against Portugal, 2-1, with Alexander Mitrovic scoring the winner in the last minute. This saw them qualify automatically, and something that not many people expected them to. Now, with the likes of Alexander Mitrovic and Dusan Vlahovic up top, Serbia's system is geared around getting the absolute best out of those two players. Now, they don't really have a wealth of talent apart from those two strikers. They obviously do have Dusan Tadic and Filip Kostic as well, 2 players who are playing in Europe's top leagues for some of the biggest clubs in the world and are performing very well. However, Mitrovic and Vlahovic are their two starlets. They're their 2 talismen, and they will be playing pretty much every single game should they be fit and should fitness and form go on their side in a sense. They do play a 3-4-1-2 system. Now, this system is very geared around getting the best out of those two players, like we just said. They have Dusan Tadic playing in that number 10 role, who is their main creative outlet. The kind of modus operandi, in a sense, is to play direct football to those strikers as quickly as possible. Obviously, Tadic playing in that number 10 role. However, Filip Kostic playing as that left wing back is also another fantastic creative option for Serbia. He is a fantastic crosser of the ball. His passing range is brilliant. His vision is second to none. So him getting the crosses into Vlahovic and Mitrovic is something that Serbia will be looking to do in this World Cup. A very tight and disciplined double pivot, similar to what we just covered with Denmark, is a staple to their system. This allows the likes of Vlahovic and Mitrovic to focus more on their offensive talents and really focus in on where they need to be for the quick transition counter-attack, just to catch defences off guard and get those balls over the top or get on the end of any crosses. This means that with this tight double pivot and with this slightly more defensive system, this allows those two players, and even Dusan Tadic to a little bit of a lesser extent as well, this allows them to really focus on their offensive output rather than having to do too much defensive work, which could mitigate their ability on the counter-attack. Now, with the size and presence of those two strikers, their main MO is set pieces. From their 13 goals in their most recent Nations League campaign, 5 of them came from set pieces, as well as having the most crosses per game with 24. Now, obviously is a little bit of a flippant term, or a little bit of a obscure way of defining what a cross actually is. However, this ability to spray the ball out wide and to get aerial balls into the box as well as balls along the ground is what they're going to really be looking at. They had the most shots inside the 6-yard box in their group, as well as having the least shots from outside the box. Now, this shows just what they are able to do in terms of what their attacking mindset is to get the ball to Mitrovic and Vlahovic in the box quickly, first time shots, headers, catching defenses off guard. That's what we're going to be looking at for Serbia in this World Cup. Being defensively solid and springing teams on the counter attack with pace and width is what we're going to be looking at as well. But however, they are capable of at playing teams, passing teams to death, in a sense, I should say. They are capable in possession. They are capable to pass the ball around and then really pick their passes, in a sense. Obviously, with the size and with the presence that both those strikers offer, they can look to push beyond the back line. However, they can drop deep and use their physical presence to act as target men, to act as hold-up men, to get plays into the game. They do have pace out wide as well as creativity in behind those two strikers. Serbia will be a team to watch heading into Qatar, no doubt. And with Brazil obviously being the favourites in their group, Cameroon will be looking to shock a few teams, and Serbia and Switzerland, are coming off a fantastic European Championship campaign. Serbia may go under the radar to a little bit of an extent. However, they definitely have the talent to turn a game on its head like that. They've shown that they can beat Portugal, one of the best sides in the world. So with the likes of Vlahovic, Mitrovic, Tadic, and Kostic, 4 players who are playing at the elite level in Europe, Serbia will not be a team to be taken lightly. No doubt, they aren't intimidated by anyone. They will be looking to play on the front foot and be looking to score as many goals as possible throughout this tournament. And this could be the tournament where we can finally see the Serbian national team really explode on the world stage and prove just how good they are. This Serbian team is going to be a dark horse, no doubt, heading into Qatar. So let's finish things up by moving from Europe to North America and looking at one of the host nations for the 2026 World Cup, and that is the USA. Now, the USA are drawn in a group with Iran, Wales, and England, with England being the outright favourite for that group. You'd expect the fight for second place to be very tough and very competitive. However, the USA definitely have more than enough talent in their squad and more than enough ability to get into that second place and go a little bit further than the round of 16 as well. Now, when we take a look at the road to qualification in the CONCACAF side of things, they were drawn with Canada, Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, Jamaica, El Salvador, and Honduras. They finished third of those 8 teams, qualifying automatically on goal difference ahead of Costa Rica, who were then shunted into the intercontinental playoff against New Zealand. From those 14 games, they won 7, drew 4, lost 3. However, they finished with a plus 11 goal difference, which was 2 more than Mexico, who finished 3 points ahead of them in second place. Now, when we take a look at this USA team, the one thing that stands out is the amount of young talent that they have. However, when we look at their system, I think it's a very systematic way of playing football that will build good foundations for those players and really make them a hard side to break down and a tough side to beat. When we look at their system, it's a very simple 4-3-3 system that relies on very simple principles. You have Tyler Adams as the defensive midfield number 6, that drops in between the 2 centre halves to create a little bit of a 3 at the back system. What this provides is extra defensive security as well as another layer of attack in terms of Tyler Adams being very capable in possession, as a fantastic passing range, as well as having a good ability to carry the ball. We covered him in our 1 key players to watch for every World Cup Nation video, so you can go check that out on the YouTube channel as well. However, Tyler Adams will be the main midfield cog in that USA system. He'll be able to drop deep in between those 2 centre backs, like I just said, as well as carry the ball forward and be the real first avenue of attack for the US. They have 2 aggressive fullbacks that provide the width in the midfield/offensive third. Now, these fullbacks are given the license to move forward and to be aggressive because of Tyler Adams sitting deep and creating that back 3, which maintains the width in defence to cover the wingers from the opposition, as well as covering any central overloads that might occur. Now, the 2 inside forwards that complement the striker create overloads in the central area of the pitch, in the half spaces, in between the lines, and this is a very, very tricky system to defend, because you have those overloads in central areas with the 2 wingers coming inside and linking up with the striker, as well as the 2 advanced number 8s, which are given license to move forward because of Tyler Adams' positioning slightly deeper. You have those central overloads, but then you also have the wide players we obviously have the wide fullbacks creating that width, maintaining that width, and allowing for the USA to have that outball out wide to get crosses into the box. This balance that this provides makes the USA a very tough team to break down, and in order to break down the USA, you do need to have very, very solid principles, and you do need to be able to defend the basics very well, because the USA are built off doing the simple things well, doing the basics well, and then letting the flair of the individuals like Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah, Ricardo Pepi, these players to really shine through their individual talents rather than breaking teams down from a systematic perspective. They rely on numbers overloads in central and wide areas to really create chances, and with the likes of Pulisic and Weah, who are both having pretty good seasons, despite not having pretty good seasons, I should say, they always show up for the national team. They always show up for the US, and obviously Pulisic is one of the USA's best players that has come through that system over the recent years. This balance that this provides, the balance in system that this provides, it allows those players to really show just how good they are and express themselves as individual players. However, with this, what they look to do in possession is that they aren't heavily reliant on possession. While they do have the ability to retain possession, they can pass teams to death, especially lesser teams than them if they do so please. They aren't relying on it to win games. From their last 6 games in World Cup qualifying, in their 2 losses from those 6 games, they had 65 and 64% possession, whereas in their 3 wins, they had 63 and 73% possession. However, they did win win a game with 40% possession, as well as in their draw against Mexico, who finished higher than them in the group, they only had 37% possession. Now, this shows of a systematic. Now, this goes back to what we were speaking about with the systematic way of playing football, is that they aren't reliant on everything to go right for them to do well. They are built on solid principles, solid foundations that can work when you have a lot of possession, when you don't have a lot of possession, when you need to sit back in a low block, when you need to sit in a high block and really press the opposition. These fundamentals and these basics that they do have down pat allows them to just play pretty much any system that they, or play any style of football that they do need to play in order to get the best out of those players to beat the opposition. With the attacking talents that they have in their final third, they do like to get the ball up quickly and with high tempo. Pulisic, Weah, Ricardo Pepi, Jesus Ferreira as well, players who are very dynamic, very intrinsic in the way that they play, have fantastic ball movement, all can score goals as well, and can all create chances. The USA's principal foundations allow these players to thrive and allow these players to show just how good they are. The key players for them will be Tyler Adams and Christian Pulisic, like I mentioned. However, Walker Zimmerman, the captain of that side, will be a fantastic leader in that American back line and will be the man to make sure everything's in order. What we're going to expect from the USA in the World Cup is a solid basic team in a sense. They aren't going to be overly special they aren't going to play any weird tactics or any asymmetrical tactics or any intrinsic formations. They're just going to be very simple and very principled in their basics, and they let their attacking players go to work through high tempo, high paced, aggressive football. It's going to be an exciting team to watch, no doubt, because when they do get on a roll, they are very hard to stop and they're very exciting to watch. However, defensively, they won't leak goals. They won't be petulant in defense as well. They'll be able to shut teams out and just play a very basic and simple and principled way of playing football. That's what we can expect from the USA heading into the World Cup. And when we look at their group, of course, like I mentioned, Iran and Wales will be the teams that will be competing for that second place, expecting England to run away, to be the runaway leaders in that group. They can most certainly get out of that group. They can most certainly make a shock in the round of 16. And we saw what they've done at previous World Cups. It won't shock me in the slightest if they're able to replicate what they've been able to do, despite their eyes having been set on the 2026 World Cup, where some of their young core will be in their prime and they'll be ready to really make a splash on the international stage. They could plant the seeds of being a very, very good nation in Qatar, which will give them the perfect springboard heading into 4 years' time at their home tournament. So the USA, while they have flown a little bit under the radar, are the third team which we are covering in terms of being a dark horse heading into Qatar. So yes, thank you all very much for watching another video on the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel covering 3 dark horses heading into the World Cup in Qatar. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Make sure you leave any thoughts of any other teams you think could be dark horses, and leave your thoughts on the 3 teams that have been mentioned in this video. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel. See you guys next time, and goodbye.